We do have one more piece of business, and it's this discussion is a great segue into our lightning talk session. In this format, the presenters will come and speak back to back. They will each have approximately 5 minutes, which has gone down to 4. Just now, the power of the finger, this one, went down. To save time, I will not come up between the talks, but instead you'll be asked to introduce yourselves. As speaker, please make your way up right now and come to the tech booth if you're not already there. For those presenting, please watch your time, but Lorna's going to do it as well. And right after the lightning talks, we will have lunch. And right after lunch, we will have NB Plus with Kathy Simpson. So for now, I'd ask the first lightning talk speaker. Oh, thank you. Come on up. It's your turn.
Hello, everyone. A question came up today. What does it take to tackle our most profound social, environmental, and political challenges? It's a question that was posed this morning by Zaid Hassan, and it's a question that I want to come back to. But first, my name is Jake Wildman-Sisk, and I work with the Pondesh Pondé Center for Entrepreneurship. And a little over a year ago, we found our organization in a room with the team from the Social Policy Research Network asking that question, or some form of it. What would it take to tackle our most profound social, environmental, and political challenges in New Brunswick? But it wasn't rhetoric. We actually wanted to know what it would take. It's funny because we create complex challenges for ourselves as a system, as a group, but then paradoxically, we too often try to solve them as individuals. What would it look like if we all actually did work as a system and we all took a little ownership over a piece of the problem, but we all took a little ownership also over a piece of the solution? And this isn't semantics, these are real questions and they deserve real answers. And although we don't have all the answers just yet, we're launching New Brunswick's first social innovation lab, and we think we may be onto something. We have a short video that we want to show before we continue.
The province of New Brunswick faces serious social and economic problems, complex, long-standing problems. Dedicated New Brunswickers are collaborating to generate new ideas.
I'm Misty McLaughlin, and I am Public Relations for Bridges of Canada. We operate the Sarah Tracy Centre for Women, which is a long-term rehabilitation centre for women struggling with addiction and mental health issues.
I'm Andrew McLean, and I work for the New Brunswick Medical Society, which is the professional association of doctors in the province. And we spend all of our time working on two things, representing and serving physicians and advocating for the health of New Brunswickers.
My name is Trevor McCausland. I'm the Director of Business Development at 3+ Corporation, Greater Moncton. We're the economic development agency for the municipalities of Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe.
Governments and nonprofits have worked for decades, but these challenges remain, and in some cases have grown worse. What if New Brunswick could look at these issues with a fresh approach, a new way to think completely outside the box, and come up with unique and sustainable solutions?
Solutions Labs, the idea is exciting to me because it's bringing members of the community together that can strategize in terms of what those solutions are.
Because the responsibility for solving these problems does not belong to governments alone. The private sector, nonprofits, colleges and universities, and private citizens all have a responsibility to act.
I think the whole premise of the whole model is understanding that no one person knows the answer. And I think when you reduce the pressure to come up with the right answer for the massive challenge in front of you, and you accept that everybody probably owns a little bit of the solution, you're encouraged to work together in a way that you can on your own.
What if social and economic problems were viewed through the lens of an entrepreneur whose sole focus was achieving outcomes? That kind of free thinking leads to super innovative answers.
We are great at ganging up on the opportunity, not on each other. And I think that's why labs are so important. It's to give those visionaries the sandbox, to allow others to come in and play and make that idea and that vision come to fruition.
Solutions labs can free participants from the way we've always done it. Instead of reacting to the latest crisis as an isolated problem, the finger in the dam approach, labs look at the whole system behind the problem and seek a system-wide solution.
We think about government and how we elect, the next political party, and they work with the civil service and they have departments and structures. Or a nonprofit is governed by a board and they have a mandate and they raise money and they do it. And all these things we can touch and feel and we understand. But Solutions Lab kind of tears down those walls that we all understand to be how we get work done. Predominantly, the starting point is a group of champions around a particular complex problem that put their hands up and say, we really want to make a difference here, and we're willing to put our time and energy and our capital on the table to solve this in the right way. And we're going to open our minds and our hearts to the possibility of working with others to do this. And that's how it gets started.
With more freedom to fail and succeed wildly, Solutions Labs often produce lean and surprisingly counterintuitive approaches to stubborn problems in relatively short time.
One of our biggest strengths is our smallness and the fact that we are very closely connected to each other. So the difference between a person who has an idea, a person who can make a decision, a person who can change policy, a person who can invest, is probably 1 degree of separation or less. New Brunswick has a very unique mix of raw materials to be a center for innovation, a living lab.
So that's what we've begun. 2 weeks ago, we held 2 workshops around identifying and framing challenges. And today, a little over a year after those initial conversations, this is our response. It's New Brunswick's first social innovation lab, New Lab. And by borrowing methodologies from our partners, the Mars Solutions Lab in Toronto and the GovLab at the New York University, we're building our own social innovation lab around the challenges in and the context of New Brunswick, where we prefer prototyping over piloting, where we prefer experimentation over catch-all solutions, where ideas are developed by innovators from government, academia, community, and private sector, and where we lead with the right questions, not with the right solutions. We held 2 workshops 2 weeks ago, and 6 teams formed around 6 of New Brunswick's most pressing challenges. And 6 teams courageously stepped up and said, enough is enough. There are challenges in this province that deserve to be challenged, not by doing business as usual, and not by strategic planning alone. They're groups that don't have all the answers yet, but we think they're asking the right questions. And through our process where we will convene them at the right times, connect them with the right people, and facilitate them in the right ways, we think that this could be a partnership that could be instrumental in rewriting that story and creating that new Brunswick. So we want to give each of those groups 3 minutes to speak about why their challenge is so important and what they've begun through our process. So I won't take any more time. I won't do the hover parent thing and jump up between presentations. This is lightning talks. We'll make them quick. We'll start by maybe giving a warm welcome to our first lab around food. Suzanne White, do you want to come up to the stage? You good?
Thank you, Jake. Not all New Brunswickers have access to New Brunswick-grown food. And that's a problem because when we break that connection, we sacrifice our ability to build healthy, sustainable, and culturally rich communities. And if we think of ourselves as being self-sufficient in producing food for New Brunswickers, think again. In 2013, New Brunswick farmers produced enough vegetables to meet just 8% of our population's current demand, and only 20% of our demand for pork and beef. The fact that New Brunswick does not grow enough food to meet our own needs impacts our economy, our environment, and our health. Every dollar spent on imported food is a dollar not directed into our own New Brunswick economy. Money much needed to grow jobs and investments in all aspects of our local food system, which is currently fragmented and disappearing. Today, New Brunswick institutions are negotiating multi-year contracts with companies outside of New Brunswick. Enriched farmland lies fallow under the neglect of absentee landowners chasing tax credits. Someone who didn't know any better might say it looks like we're purposely sending money out of New Brunswick while knowingly increasing health costs. So we can all agree that's an important challenge, and here's why it's complex. Agriculture is in New Brunswick's DNA. We're surrounded by natural resources, ready to be nurtured to thrive and provide. So grow more food and buy local, you say? Sure, except today's farmers struggle with shrinking profit margins and rising input costs. Food costs are also rising, while farmers are paid for the product as if it is in 1985, not 2015. So by 2025, approximately 70% of New Brunswick farmers will be retired, and new farmers face prohibitive startup costs, lack of infrastructure, and the constraints of health and safety measures designed solely for large-scale producers. There's a growing trend for processed food. Spiking stress levels and financial pressures contribute to the eroding of many New Brunswickers' food knowledge and skills, putting buy local low on the priority list. Close to 20,000 of our neighbors in New Brunswick rely on assistance from food banks to avert hunger. 32% of them are children. Meanwhile, mountains of food go to waste on farmers' fields and in landfills due to our broken food system. And here's a little known fact. In anticipation of improving growing patterns here due to climate change, foreign conglomerates are now buying up blocks of prime New Brunswick farmland earmarked to grow food for their populations overseas. To correct this complex problem, time is of the essence. I'm Suzanne White, and I have the honor of working with a diverse team of community developers, researchers, and farmers connected to action happening at the ground level to reinvigorate our local food economy. Throughout our province, there are pods of innovative approaches contributing to regional food systems based on the strengths and available resources in each region. Now, at a glance, each region may look very different in their approach, but when we look at them together, it's a mosaic of tools, maps, successes, and failures that we can learn from. Take the farm to cafeteria school programs. This initiative is demonstrating that every dollar invested locally contributes $2.16 back into the local economy. As a team, we've just begun to shape an understanding of what action can take to build a New Brunswick food system that supports our collective community interests. We call on those of you in the audience who can help chart this course forward to seek us out today and join in this important work. We also challenge everyone in the room to play a part in building a better local food system, stimulating growth and jobs and growing our own economy. It's simple, actually. Just commit to buying local food. When and where you shop, ask for it, demand it. Because without action, without support, and without change, we'll miss the opportunity to reclaim our food sovereignty, to build more resilient communities, and to protect the future of our health, the health of our families, and that of our communities. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. We are homesteaders, scientists, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. The broad topic that brought our four-person team together is how do we rebuild the rural? As you know, natural resources are a significant asset in New Brunswick's rural communities, but at the same time, people struggle to make a living from their land without degrading that land. We see a link between this issue and things like outmigration, depopulation, social isolation, climate change, and a variety of others. The complex challenge that we are addressing in our lab is how can we use our natural resources in a way that is economically viable and environmentally sustainable, the two together. We know it's possible to create a rural economy that uses our natural resources sustainably, where New Brunswickers not only survive, but thrive. So we have 2 asks for you. First, what examples do you see, and where that you know of, where people are living off the land and it's working? And second, we are a well-rounded team, but to achieve true vertical diversity, we needed to address this challenge. We are seeking additional team members who have government and or business perspectives. And myself, I'm Megan DeGraff. My team member at the back is Laura. We'd be happy to speak with anybody at the break who would like to talk to us more.
Last year, Statistics Canada released that New Brunswick, for the first time on record, had more deaths than births. We are the fastest shrinking province in Canada. And by 2036, it's expected that 1/3 of people living in New Brunswick will be over the age of 65. Each year, New Brunswick admits roughly 625 newcomers through a program called the Provincial Nominee Program, to drive economic immigration and population growth. And about half of those 625 people here come here to start a business. And yet, even less than 50% of those people even try to start a business. We want to be, our big hairy dream is to be the best place for immigrants to start a business in Canada. My name is Alex LeBlanc. I work for the New Brunswick Multicultural Council.
Hi, and my name is Adrienne Opre, and I work with the New Brunswick Business Council. Alex and I came together to do this work on the social lab because we both feel really strongly that the business community and the settlement community, settlement agencies in New Brunswick need to work much closer together. Once settled, people's probability of staying in New Brunswick is much, much greater if they have fulfilling employment. They'll set down roots and be a part of our community. So we feel that we can do better in 2 ways, and in 2 key areas: helping immigrants with startups and connecting newcomers to the labor market. Specifically, our startup ecosystem in New Brunswick is something that we're very, very proud of. And we want to drill into how to better integrate the network of business incubators and accelerators with those serving newcomers. Secondly, many New Brunswick businesses expand outside of our province today. These are businesses that are homegrown and they love New Brunswick, but they're forced into a position where they have to expand their operations outside New Brunswick because they just can't find the labor in New Brunswick, despite the fact that we do have high unemployment in many areas.
So we want to collect and evaluate data to better understand why less than 50% of these newcomers are even trying to start a business here. We need to better understand the factors that get in the way of newcomer retention. And ultimately, we're seeking people to be on our core lab team that are committed, that are interested and passionate in this project, and that can commit the time and follow through on this important initiative.
So right now we're 2, but we want to build our team. So if you want to be a part of working towards a solution in New Brunswick, and even outside New Brunswick, we're not fussy. We just want people with stick-to-itiveness that will work with us. Our goal is to develop a portfolio of initiatives, that's our words from Zaid from yesterday, that we can prototype and that'll provide employment opportunities for newcomers so that they stay and become an integral part of New Brunswick's future success. We want to help New Brunswick move New Brunswick's retention rate of newcomers from 68% to 75% in 2 years. So come be a part of that with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Collectively, we have a major problem. About 54% of the New Brunswick population, aged 16 to 65, is not functionally literate. According to similar international studies over the past 30 years, there has been very little change in this appalling statistic. Now, what do we mean by functionally literate? Simply put, it means that an individual, although able to read, cannot comprehend or act upon the most common written information we're exposed to every day. In terms of numbers, we're talking about 270,000 New Brunswickers aged 16 to 65 who are denied the basic human right as defined by UNESCO to be literate in all that implies. Think about it. If you have a child or a grandchild in high school in grade 10 or higher, still struggling to read, what are their chances of successfully graduating from grade 12? What are their future prospects? If your neighbor, colleague at work, or perhaps your employee is among that 270,000, can you begin to imagine their everyday barriers and frustration in dealing with the written word? These will range from securing meaningful employment, supporting a family, staying healthy, to being active in our communities. Health, education, and literacy are inextricably linked and are the vital components of social and economic development throughout the province. Now, why do we have this problem? What's being done about it? Comparing our adult literacy rate with the rest of Canada, New Brunswick is close to the bottom of the heap. Only Newfoundland is slightly worse than us. We've had compulsory education in our province for more than one generation, yet the schooling system has failed so many of its citizens, so many unable to enjoy their basic human right. Will the current system continue to do so? If we value education, why are we allowing so many to fail? If we are hoping that the results of the consultation process and the recommendations in the 10-year education plan will answer that question, the NB Literacy Secretariat's province-wide consultation has been completed, and the long-anticipated report hopefully will reveal a determination to dramatically improve our literacy rates, so that when the next international study results are available in 8 years' time, we will see a significant improvement. In the meantime, agencies in the province have been working on our adult literacy problem for some time. Lawbuck Literacy has been offering free one-to-one volunteer tutoring services in communities for, for almost 40 years, and the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labour has been providing community adult learning centres across the province since the 1990s, where those over 19 who didn't complete grade 12 can attend small classes free of charge conducted by professional teachers who study for their GED. The department also helps employers with their workplace essential skills programs. There are other support and advocacy groups, including the Literacy Coalition of New Brunswick and the Greater Moncton Literacy Advisory Board, members of which are participating in the social innovation labs being conducted by the New Brunswick Social Policy Research Network and are here today. And I include my colleague, Deanna Allen, and I'm Peter Sawyer, part of that group. While these efforts are producing meaningful results for the individuals who take advantage of the services offered, we are reaching so very few adults, perhaps only about 5%. So why aren't they calling? Again, if we value education, why do we allow so many to fail? Perhaps the answers are in this room. I've had it. Okay. Well, how do you think you can get involved? You can go out into the world, into your wherever you work, whatever you're doing, and say, and let everyone know we have this problem. It's been going on for too long. We've got to do something about it. You can all help. Thank you, Jake.
New Brunswick is on the cusp of an affordable housing crisis. 30,000 people now meet the definition of core housing need. Of the 14,000 units that are owned or subsidized by the province, many are in a state of disrepair. The agreements for social housing are expiring. The Auditor General in New Brunswick warned us about this 2 years ago. The silence is deafening. 6,000 people apply every year for affordable housing. The list is long, and people apply regularly for a safe, warm place to live. The CMHC looks at core housing need and defines suitability, adequacy, and affordability. A moment about affordability in the province of New Brunswick. With a population of 750,000 people, at any one time, 40,000 people are in social assistance. At any one time, more than 30,000 are on unemployment insurance. The Common Fund for Social Justice announced yesterday that 20,000 people work for minimum wage in New Brunswick. Many of those are women. The minimum wage in New Brunswick is now the lowest in the country at $10.30. If we're talking income inadequacy, we're looking at New Brunswick. Housing is important because it is a basic need. It is the most fundamental determinant of individual and population health. If you reflect back on your undergraduate days, you may recall Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The American psychologist had posited a theory of human development that had at its apex of a pyramid transcendence or self-actualization. But you only got there if you had a solid foundation. If basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, and safety were incorporated into your daily life. Without housing, without that basic need, we cannot expect people to move up the pyramid. Affordable housing qualifies as a complex issue. When we looked as a team at a definition of complexity, we were flummoxed initially, but we sort of settled on a problem or project is complex because it is never fully knowable, it's not easily analyzed, the goals and methods are unclear, there are many parts of an intricate arrangement. There is an unpredictability of effect, and it is influenced by and adapts to the environment. There is no right answer. In other words, there's no silver bullet, but perhaps there's silver buckshot. And that about sums up housing. Housing is complex because we're involving individuals with the full range of human vulnerabilities and frailties and aspirations, and we're mixing it with government and with budgets and four-year election cycles. We want to narrow the issue. We want to look at particularly at transition. It is a stated policy of this government that it is the ambition to move people along a housing continuum from shelters to supported housing to affordable housing and subsidies, ultimately to market rents and home ownership. But the transition is not working. There is a stickiness to transition in this province that is preventing people from moving out. And we want to look particularly at the conundrum of what we have right now is a number of people seeking units, and we have empty units. And it transcends rural and urban areas. We have a bottleneck issue that we have to work at. I'm joined by a wonderful team of people, and if change happens at the speed of trust, I think we're going to be moving fairly quickly. It's a wonderful group. I anticipate some long-lasting friendships to emerge from this. We need your help. We need to liberate and unpack data. We need innovative ideas. We want you to join our team and help us try to identify that pellet from the silver buckshot that's going to make a difference with affordable housing. Thank you.
Good morning. So since we started our lightning talks this morning, someone in Canada has died from a tobacco-related illness. 37,000 people last year died in Canada of tobacco-related illness. The number in New Brunswick is actually higher than it is in Canada as a statistical percentage of people that smoke. It's about 20% of adults that smoke. 24% of youth who said they don't smoke are susceptible to take up smoking by their own admission. That's one issue. And another issue is obesity. 1/3 of New Brunswickers, I won't ask you to look at the two people beside you, but 1/3 of New Brunswickers are obese. 1/3 of New Brunswickers are overweight. These are enormous challenges. Both tobacco and obesity present enormous challenges for us as individuals, for people as individuals, but also for society. And they're problems not because of individual choice. There's some element of individual choice, but a lot of these issues relate to the complex social and economic issues that face New Brunswick. My name is Xander McLean. I've been fortunate enough to work with an amazing team of people who are even more passionate than I am about working against the tide of these two issues to turn New Brunswick into one of the healthiest provinces in the country. We're looking at specifically how government policy can help New Brunswickers make healthier choices in their everyday lives. And the reason that we've chosen to do this is because we feel as though there's a lot of amazing work that's happening on these two issues across the province, specifically at the community and regional levels. And what we'd really like to see is for some of the policies that are enacted at the provincial level to help support people to make the choices that take them away from behaviors that harm their own health and harm us as a society, and be able to turn those into things that are positive and for their own good. So the bottom line is, what can we do provincially in terms of policy interventions to change the face of these things that are happening in the province. There's three things that I'm going to ask of you this morning. The first is to talk to us about the promising ideas and models you know of that are happening elsewhere that we could apply here in New Brunswick. The second is, if you're here in this room, you have a job on this, and that is that you work in some element of what we call the social determinants of health. They directly relate to obesity and tobacco use, and we're looking for your help. And the third thing is to talk about this tonight at home. It takes a lot of political courage to make political moves and policy interventions on tobacco and obesity, and I think as Dr. Couturier said this morning, and I actually wrote it down, government reacts to where the public psyche is at. Let's make the public psyche progressive and aggressive and assertive when it comes to policy interventions tackling these two things. We want a New Brunswick where healthy behaviors are normal, not because they're the right thing to do, but because they're the easy thing to do. Health and healthy behavior should be something not only extended to most of the people in this room, but also to the vast majority of the people that are outside of it. I'm Andrew McLean. We're working on a team, we're working as part of a team on obesity and tobacco. We're looking for your help. Thank you.
So I know everyone has their own excuse for why their time slot is the most difficult during the day. Mine is because I stand between you and the food. I know it's overused, but it's very true right now. So I'm just going to say this. These are the emails of the team leads for each of these challenges. If something inspired you, if you know a way you could support one of these labs, you could connect them with someone, or you just want to have a conversation. Sarah, do we have baskets? Great. So there will be baskets up here with the respective challenges. On your table should be a notepad. Write a little note with your email or contact information if you have something to say, and drop it in one of these pads. These are challenges where people have stepped up and said, we need to challenge them, but they can't do it alone. They're going to need your help. And through our process from January for 4 months, they're going to be exploring those challenges, but they will need support, and they will need support from your networks and your communities. So we do ask that you step up and you connect in with us. So maybe one last warm round of applause for the people who are stepping up to these challenges and pitch today. And then happy eating and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Wow, that was lightning fast and very inspiring. I'm going to ask you to pick up your food today, but stay in the room. Not that we're going to have Kathy for lunch, but over lunch, she's going to talk about NB+. And so what I'm proposing, for us to do is to take about a 25-minute break. Grab your lunch, sit at your table, and we'll get this energy going again for this great afternoon that we have in stock for you. Alors, merci de ramasser vos dîners, venir vous asseoir à vos tables pour qu'on puisse entamer le tout à 12h40 at 12:40, please. Thank you.